All right. Here we go. It's not ESPN's 30 for 30, however it is, my 98 for 98. The 98 seasons in history of the New York Football Giants. Going to try to get it done in 98 days. It's going to fall a little bit short of that, but I'm going to get done by September 10th, which is the opening day against the Dallas Cowboys, and we're getting fine. We're in the back stretch. We're in the home stretch, whatever you want to call. We're in 2016. The 92nd season in history of the New York Football Giants. 92nd season for the Giants, the 97th season in the history of the NFL. NFL started in 1920. Giants started in 1925. So the Giants are 5 years younger than the NFL is. 2016. Very, very interesting season here, to say the least, for the Giants. It was the first season since 2004 without Tom Coughlin marching, standing on the sidelines. Did feel a bit odd. They kept it in-house with Ben McAdoo. They hired him as the head coach. Things worked out pretty well the first season. Things looked really rather lovely, might I add, the first season for the Giants in 2016 under Ben McAdoo. As he was a up-and-coming, offensive-minded coach, and as it is kind of today, if you get somebody, a young, offensive-minded coach, looks like they can, take the team, and run with it. And it's still obviously very popular today, especially, if you get these young minds. So that's what happened. I believe, after Coughlin was kind of, it's tough to say with Coughlin. I mean, he stepped down. He was asked to step down. I don't think they really wanted to fire him after all he meant to the team and this, that, and the other thing. But so they McAdoo was on the coaching staff, and I think that the Eagles even might have wanted to talk to him as well, but the Giants kind of scoffed him up before he hit the open market, meaning McAdoo, scoffed him up and made him become the head coach. As I said, this season, it was very, very interesting season. The Giants, the year before in 2015, had a horrible defense. Their offense was very good. Their defense was atrocious. In 2015, the defense gave up I think it was 6 games. They either lost, and it was like an overtime, and they gave up in the final minute or 2 minutes of the game, they had the lead, and they just lost it because of the defense. It was absolutely horrible. So what happened in the offseason was Jerry Reese went out and he spent quite a bit of money in free agency. The 3 top ones were Janoris Jenkins, the Jackrabbit, at cornerback. Then he took Olivier Vernon, off the edge, who was a very good edge rusher. And then Snacks Harrison, somebody who was very good in clogging up the middle, very good. You weren't going to get much out of the sack department with Snacks, but he was phenomenal at stacking up against the run. Very, very good. That was his bread and butter right there. And back then, Snacks was at the top of his game as far as stopping the run. And, everything worked well. There was so many close games. And a lot of them found, worked their way in the Giants' favor. And they went from a horrible season in 2015 to 11-5 in 2016. They made the playoffs, and of course, that's when before the playoffs, that's when after the regular season was over, good old OBJ decided to take the wide receivers. Hey, let's go on a boat trip, right? And things didn't well. I mean, I guess the boat trip worked out okay, but instead of concentrating on the Packers and the playoffs, I want to worry about those guys, right? Aaron Rodgers, right? Odell Beckham Jr. didn't want to have anything to do with that. He was more interested in going out and just having a good time instead of worrying about the playoffs. Well, all of a sudden, when the playoffs rolled around, the Giants got smoked But so we'll go over that in a little bit. But how did they do in the preseason, the 2016 preseason for the Giants? Well, let's see here. About 500. On Friday, August 12th, was their first preseason game. They were home against the Dolphins. They lost 27-10. The next week, they were on the road. They played the Bills. On August 20th, they were away against the Bills. They lost 21-0. So they started off 0-2. Then they won the next two. The following week, they were the away team when they played the Jets on August 27th. They would win 21-20. Then, as they did many a time, the fourth and final game was against the New England Patriots. They were home at MetLife Stadium on September 1st. They played the New England Patriots, and they would win 17-9. So the Giants finished up 2-2. And what does Wikipedia have to say about the Giants 2016 season? The 2016 New York Giants season was the franchise's 92nd season in the National Football League. Their 7th season playing their home games at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and the first under head coach Ben McAdoo. After losing 6 games, where it was 6 games. It was so tough to watch those games in 2015. After losing 6 games where they had late fourth quarter leads in 2015, Jerry Reese spent over $200 million in free agency to revitalize their defense because they had these leads and they just could not hold a lead. But the problem is that he went out in free agency and tried to cure the problem, and it did. It put a Band-Aid on the cut, but it needed stitches. Basically, they needed to draft better, develop their own players that they drafted, and re-sign their players, and they were not doing that. And once again, in this draft, we'll point out where they were not doing that. Draft after draft after draft. They re-signed one of the players here, and he's still on the team, thank goodness. But other than that, the rest of the guys, they drafted them, didn't develop them, and they let them go. You can't build a team that way. And year in and year out, Jerry Reese, for whatever reason, decided not to do that. His draft picks, they did not last long with the Giants. Absolutely horrible. Let's see here. He spent over $200 million in free agency to revitalize the defense. He re-signed JP Paye to a 1-year deal and signed Damon Snacks Harrison, Olivier Vernon, and Janoris Jack Rabbit Jenkins. Cornerback Eli Apple was drafted with the 10th overall pick in the 2016 draft. So, he brought in Harrison, Vernon, Jenkins, and drafted Apple. So he brought, he kept JPP to a 1-year deal, right? Then we signed him long term, just to a 1-year deal. So he brought in some, between Eli Apple and Jenkins, now we got our starting corners. Harrison was really good at clogging up the run, and between Olivier Vernon and maybe a JPP, they're very good at rushing the quarterback. Let's see. The Giants began 2-0 before falling into a 3-game losing streak to the Redskins, Vikings, and Packers. The Giants then rebounded and went on a 6-game winning streak for the first time since 2010 before falling to the Steelers in Week 13. The Giants then upset the 11-1 Cowboys in Week 14 to improve to 9-4. With their Week 14 win over the Cowboys, the Giants clinched a winning season for the first time since 2012 and also swept the Cowboys for the first time since 2011. And also, when the Giants upset the Cowboys, when the Giants upset the 11-1 Cowboys in Week 14, the Cowboys were 11-1, as I just said. Their one loss was to the Giants on opening day. They lost 20-19. The Cowboys lost to the Giants 20-19. So the Giants swept them. The Giants got their 10th win of the season in Week 15, having a 10-win season for the first time since 2010. Their 7-1 record at home is their best home record since MetLife Stadium opened up in 2010. So, I mean, things were really looking rather rosy for McAdoo and crew. The wheels all fell off in 2017, but 2016, everything just lined up, and everything went rather hunky-dory. Despite losing to the Eagles in Week 16, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost to the New Orleans Saints 2 days later meant the Giants clinched a playoff trip for the first time since their last Super Bowl season in 2011. Giants' first playoff game since the Super Bowl ended in disappointment as they were upended by the Green Bay Packers in the wild card round at Lambeau Field. The Giants only managed to score 13 points and allowed a season-high 38 points, ending their season. Until 2022, this was the last season in which the Giants would have a winning season or postseason appearance. Oh, yeah, some lean years there. The Giants sent 4 players to the Pro Bowl, and their defense in 2016 was ranked 3rd in the NFL with 5 All-Pros. The other one was they had 4 All-Pros on defense, and they had 5 All-Pros altogether. The other one was Odell Beckham Jr., who set a career high in receptions. He had over 100 receptions. We'll go over that in just a minute. So, yeah, Odell Beckham, he had a great season. It was a special season also because, let's see, these were the free agents the Giants added. J.P. Paye, who was a free agent, they signed him to a 1-year deal. Janoris Jenkins, Olivier Vernon, Damon Harrison. They also free agents signed Keenan Robinson, a linebacker, and Leon Hall, a cornerback. So a lot of these guys really helped the defense and made a big impression. The Giants, I think, gave up like 27 points a game in 2015. They went from 27 points a game down to 17 points a game in 2016. Now they were second as far as giving up points. 17.8 points per game they were giving up, which was second least in all the NFL. So, I mean, they really did good, their defense. Now, so with the draft, of course, now, once again, Jerry Reese, I mean, he was just absolutely, his drafts were just absolutely usually horrible. I said maybe he would hit on somebody, but I mean, for the most part, if he hit on one person, that was probably much about it. A lot of his later picks, if they did make it, if they did pan out in the NFL, his 5th and 6th or 7th round picks, they never stayed with the Giants. And as I said, you can't build a team that way. If with your 5th and 6th and 7th round picks, if somebody makes it, it winds up being good. You got to keep those guys. They're cheaper, and you got to keep them. And he just would. I don't know what he thought he was doing. I mean, absolutely horrible. Now, this goes to show right here, his first pick number 10, he took Eli Apple. Now, was Eli Apple an absolutely unbelievably horrible? I mean, he's a absolutely trash, to me, absolutely trash human being, because he got drafted by the Giants. Then he went after the Giants. They traded him, I think, to New Orleans after like 2.5 years. And then he finally went to the Bengals, and the Bengals were having success. Of course, that was the season they went to the Super Bowl and all of that and everything. And all he did was trash talk the Giants, the organization, the fans, the city. All he did the same thing with the Saints. He trash talked the fans. I think he said the Saints, the New Orleans smelled and all that. I mean, guy's lucky to have a job. He's not Jesus Christ or nothing like that. He's a cornerback in the NFL. He's lucky to have a job. And he's just not talking bad about all the other organizations and everything like that. So to me, he's a human piece of trash. So, I could really care less about the moron. He's a worthless piece of human trash to me. But they drafted him. Is he a capable cornerback in the NFL? Yep. Yes, he is. I mean, as far as I know, he played last season. Now, I think he's it might be with I mean, I really try not to follow him. I think he's with Miami. I think. But, I mean, he played the past couple of seasons, 2021, 2022, with Cincinnati. So, I mean, he's still playing in the NFL. So he's drafted in 2016 and he's still playing. So is he a capable cornerback in the NFL? Yeah, absolutely. Sure. But is he a pick number 10 in the draft, the first round, or pick number 10? Absolutely not. I mean, my goodness, I don't know where on earth, what information Jerry Reese got that he thought that this guy was like pick number 10 in the draft. I mean, unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. But at least he rebounded. Okay, one of his best picks, probably ever was up there. And I mean, it's bad. I mean, he had he had a couple good home runs, but in the second round, he rebounded. He took Sterling Shepard, who's still actually with the team. Thank goodness. Problem is, unfortunately, with Sterling is he, gets injured quite a bit, unfortunately. But fantastic teammate, fantastic for the organization, class act human being, just a wonderful, fantastic guy. The exact opposite of Eli Apple. Sterling Shepard is nothing but a human positivity, just unbelievable, fantastic person. Somebody you want to have on your team and in your organization. Eli Apple is the exact opposite. So we're so lucky that we still have Sterling Shepard on the team. Not that he's the greatest wide receiver or anything like that, but just somebody who's just positive, upbeat, somebody you want. Hopefully, after his playing days are over, hopefully the Giants can find something for Sterling Shepard to do in the organization, whether it's a coaching job or something in the front office or whatever. Sterling Shepard should really be somebody who's kept around the team. Absolutely. So Sterling Shepard from Oklahoma, right, still with the team, right? So a very, very, very good pick there. Very good pick. Second round, outstanding. Couldn't have done better. The third round pick, is Darian Thompson, a safety. Now he's from Boise State, but the problem he played 6 seasons in the NFL. He played to 2021, but the problem as happened so many times, he played 2 seasons with the Giants, then he played his final 4 seasons with Dallas. Yeah, they draft guys and they don't stay long with the Giants. As I said, Eli Apple, their first round pick. They had him, for 2016, 2017, halfway through the 2018 season, they traded him to New Orleans. So their number 1 pick played 2.5 seasons with the Giants, the first round selection. Their third round pick. I mean, think about it. Nowadays, a third round pick. If they, imagine if Shane drafted Darian Thompson in the third round, he played 2 seasons and that was it. He would get crucified for something like that. But that's what happened with Jerry Reese back then. Then the fourth round pick, B.J. Goodson. He was like a thumper in the middle of the line. He wasn't a phenomenal linebacker, but he was decent. For a fourth round pick, not bad. Not bad. I can't really complain about him. The problem is, once again, he played 6 seasons in the NFL. He's from Clemson, right? He didn't play all of his career with the Giants. He played 3 seasons with the Giants, and he went to Green Bay, Cleveland, and the Jets. And basically, he didn't play in 2022 here. So once again, a fourth round pick. Not a bad pick in the fourth round. Is he Ray Lewis, Lawrence Taylor, Carl Banks? Absolutely not. Is he a serviceable linebacker for the fourth round? Not bad. Not bad at all. But once again, there's always a problem with one of his picks, with the pick. And then once again, in this case, somebody that you maybe want to keep and develop and keep on your team because he's going to be cheap, right? Somebody like maybe, he could be maybe some good quality depth, maybe, right? Going forward. He played 3 seasons with the Giants and then he was gone. You can't build a team, as I've said 300,000 times in these videos, in this series here. You can't build a team, as Jerry Reese was trying to do, drafting guys, keeping them for like 2 or 3 years and just not keeping them and just letting them go. Can't build a team that way. And year in and year out, draft in and draft out. That's what Jerry Reese tried to do. The 5th round. I was excited about this one. And, decent running back. Paul Perkins from UCLA. Decent. 5th round, right? We kind of, I guess we have maybe, because we obviously took Eric Gray in the 5th round, right, this year. I guess we probably have a little maybe higher expectations maybe for Eric Gray, but Paul Perkins had some, he was small. He was supposed to be a shifty, flashy kind of runner. Wasn't big, wasn't a thumper. Let's see, how big was he? He was not big. And actually, he was second on the team this year in 2016 in rushing yards. And I think he was one of the few, if not the only one, who averaged over 4 yards a carry in 2016. He was 5'11", 213. So, he had some nice size to him, but he was 5'11". He wasn't somebody huge. He wasn't Brandon Jacobs, but he was a decent running back. But once again, let's see here. He played 3 seasons in the NFL. I guess he got hurt. I'm not exactly sure. But he played 2016 and 2017 with the Giants, and then he missed 2018, and in 2019 he finished up his career with Detroit. So once again, 2 seasons with the Giants, and he's gone. Somebody, let's see, what was it? His first season with the Giants, he had 456 rushing yards, but he averaged 4.1 yards a carry, and he had 15 receptions. So, he averaged 100, he had 162 yards receiving, 456 rushes. He had over 600 total yards. He played in 14 games, only started in 1 game. Okay, but possibly somebody, once again, you could develop and you want to keep, and maybe as the years go by, somebody you have, who's your backup, your second or your third, maybe, it might be somebody that you keep behind Saquon. But it was not meant to be. Once again, another draft pick, 2 seasons, and he was gone. Then they took Jarrell Adams, a tight end, in the 6th round from South Carolina. He played just 3 seasons in the NFL. And once again, let's see, 2 of them with the Giants. 2016 and 2017 were with the Giants. For whatever reason, once again, he missed 2018, and then he finished up his career 2019 with Houston. So he played 3 seasons, 2 of them with the Giants, and then he was gone. The Giants did not have a 7th round pick because they traded that away to get Brad Wing, a punter from Pittsburgh. So the Giants look and didn't have any compensatory picks. And they traded away their 7th round pick. So they got Brad Wing, who had a decent season. They didn't have Weatherford anymore. Brad Wing was taking over duties at the punting. So for their 7th round pick, they got a starting punter who had a nice season for the Giants. Let's see here. Those were the draftees or draftors, however you want to say it. There was so many close games. The Giants only averaged 19.4 points per game. Their points per game average, they were like 26, I think it was the year before. Now they fell a touchdown. They went from 26 down to 19. But the thing that was huge was their defense gave up 27 points per game. In 2015, they fell down to all the way down to 17 points per game. The defense for this season really gelled, had a very, very good season. It was also a special season, too, because this one season, right, we had Eli out there. Odell Beckham Jr. was out there. Sterling Shepard was out there, the rookie. And Victor Cruz was back for the first time. Basically, hurt himself early in 2014, missed all of 2014. He injured himself in the end zone against the Eagles. Tried to come back in 2015, did something to his calf in training camp, strained his calf or something like that, wind up having to have surgery on his calf. So he missed all of 2015. So the big problem is, will he be able to come back? And if he's able to come back, can he be the Victor Cruz of old? And the answer to that was no, sadly. Let's see, what did he wind up with? This will wind up sadly be Victor Cruz's final season in the NFL. Sadly, I mean, explosive and dynamic, as amazing, blah, 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 all those other words that you can say for Victor Cruz. He was not that in 2016, his final season. I think he tried to make it with the Bears, I think, in 2017, and he didn't even make the team. I mean, it's just such a shame. Victor Cruz, where are we at here? He played 15 games. He started in 12 of them. He only had 39 receptions. And he had one touchdown. The one touchdown he had was the opening day game. He won the game against the Cowboys. The Giants were losing 19-13 to the Cowboys. Victor Cruz in the fourth quarter caught a touchdown pass, did the salsa in the end zone for the final time in his career, sadly. And the Giants beat the Cowboys 20-19. Once again, another, it was close. A lot. The Giants had so many one-score games in 2016. And luckily for them, they were on the positive side of a lot of those scores, as where on 2015, they were on a lot of the negative sides of those one-score games. But so sadly, it was a very, very special season. You having Sterling Shepard, Odell Beckham Jr., and Victor Cruz on the same team, on the same field, at the same time. What special. You know what I mean? Because what it was you had Victor Cruz, right, who'd been with the team since 2010. Then you had the whatever you want to call it, the superstar Odell Beckham, who'd only been on the team for like another year or so. And then, of course, you had the future. You had Sterling Shepard. So you had the past, you had the present, and you had the future all on the same team at the same time, on the field at the same time. It was really special. Just having those three guys out there on the field was actually fantastic, just for this one season now. What we had said, Rashawn Jennings led the team. The running game was not very good at all. They averaged 3.5 yards a carry. Very bad. The good news is that the defense only gave up 3.6 yards a carry. So thankfully, the defense, held their own. I said having Snacks Harrison in the middle of that line was huge. He was really good. Really good. I said Rashawn Jennings had 593 yards rushing. He led the team. He averaged 3.3 yards a carry. That's your leading rusher. And I said Paul Perkins was second. He had 456 yards rushing. He averaged 4.1 yards a carry. Shane Vereen, he only had 33 carries. He averaged 4.8 yards a carry. He had 158 rushing yards. Orleans Dark, who I always liked, but he never got utilized that much. He had 111 yards rushing. He averaged 3.7 yards a carry. Then he had Bobby Rainey. He ran 17 times for 63 yards. He averaged 3.7 yards a carry. So, I mean, just, the running game was not very good at 3.5 yards a carry. What do we got here? Rashawn Jennings had 35 receptions to lead the running backs. Sterling Shepard, his rookie season, had 65 receptions, but he also had 8 receiving touchdowns. Odell Beckham Jr., he was targeted 169 times, but caught 101 balls. I think it was the only time he ever caught over 100 passes in his career. This was 2016. 1,367 yards. He was healthy the whole year, played the whole year, started every game. He had 10 receiving touchdowns. Will Tye, the tight end, had 48 receptions. Victor Cruz, he had 39. So he only caught like about a couple passes a game. He caught the winning touchdown against the Cowboys. And then I think it was week 3 against the Saints. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. Week 2 against the Saints. When the Giants came home and played the Saints, I'll go more in depth and detail over it, but he caught a pass down the sideline from Eli Manning, which set the Giants up for what I think might have been their final score or so. It was a great catch down the side, contested catch down the right sideline, pulled it in. The Giants were able to get some points out of it, and they wound up beating the Saints in a close game, very close game. So that catch was huge. But unfortunately for Victor Cruz, the big catches like that were few and far between in his final season in the NFL. Such a freaking shame. He came in 2010, but he only played in 3 games because he was injured. I think it was a hamstring injury. So basically, he had 2011, 2012, and 2013. He got hurt basically, a few games into 2014, missed all of 2015, and in 2016 would be his final season. So he basically had like 4 full seasons. Such a bright, shining star, you know what I mean? The talent and all that's the speed and all of that, and he only played basically 4 full seasons in the NFL. Such a freaking shame. Let's see here. Jarrell Adams, the tight end we drafted, had 16 receptions. Larry Donnell, another tight end, had 15 receptions. We didn't have a phenomenal tight end, and we didn't have great running either. But between Cruz, Sterling Shepard, and Odell Beckham Jr., we had some good passing. The offense. Now, Eli Manning completed 63% of his passes, had over 4,000 yards passing, had 26 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. So he had a decent season. But, he's always slinging interceptions. 16 interceptions wasn't bad for him. But, if Daniel Jones throws 16 interceptions, you know how badly he's going to get crucified with 16 interceptions? Whew. What we got here? The kicking. Now, of course, this was, I believe this was the season because we had Josh Brown and Robbie Gould. Now, Josh Brown, of course, he had legal problems. He had something. I think that he wound up being he was in the same category pretty much as Eli Apple. Although I think that Josh Brown winds up being worse because Josh Brown, I think, had some type of, I think he was hitting his wife or something along those lines. So once that kind of story kind of came, because if you hit your wife, you're absolutely, Eli Apple is far superior of a human being than you are. So I think that's what it was. Please don't quote me on it, but it was something. What if I remember correctly? He had something. He was hitting his wife. And of course the Giants didn't let him go once that story came out. Then we took Robbie Gould, and so Robbie Gould, finished the season. Josh Brown was 11 out of 12. Actually, the whole season, the Giants were 21 out of 22 kicking field goals. Robbie Gould came in, and he kicked 10 out of 10 field goals. He really did fantastic for us. Extra points, unfortunately, Robbie Gould wound up missing 3 extra points. But on field goals, he was money. The Giants were 95.5% field goal percentage. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Then it said Brad Wing had a very good season punting for the Giants. Very good. Jerry Reese did very good there, getting a very solid punter for a 7th round draft pick, right? Wing averaged 46.2 yards per punt, 40.9 yards net. He had 8 touchbacks, but he kicked 28 balls inside of the 20-yard line. So basically 30% of his kicks wound up being inside the 20. So a very solid season from Mr. Wing. Let's see here. The defense had 35 sacks. We were not phenomenal with the sacks, okay? Who led the team? JPP only had 7. Olivier Vernon had 8.5. Right? We had a bunch of guys get Lanny Collins had 4. Jonathan Casillas had 1.5. Snacks Harrison actually had 2.5. Olivier Vernon had 8.5. Devin Kennard had 1. Jack Rabbit Jenkins had 1. Dominic Rogers-Cromartie, so glad we got him. He had a sack. JPP had 7. Jonathan Hankins. So between Hankins and Snacks Harrison in the middle of that defensive line was solid. JPP, Olivier Vernon, Snacks Harrison, and Hankins. What a front 4. Very, very good. As I said, Hankins, what do you have? He had 3. Leon Hall, he had 2. Romeo Aquara had 1. Jay Bromley, a defensive tackle, had 1. Kerry Wynn had half a sack. Robert Thomas had 1. Anybody else there? So a bunch of guys that had sacks. But the beauty of it is that where the offensive line was not very spectacular as far as run production, they were very good in the pass protection. They only gave up 22 sacks all season. So, a lot of it also has to do with Eli. I mean, he, as far as picking out coverages. So, I mean, with his experience and all, he's walking up to the line of scrimmage between film study and this, that, and the other thing, knowing the protection, calling the protection out, but knowing the coverage and all of that and everything. I'm sure he was able to get passes off quick. So instead of standing in a pocket looking like a deer in headlights, where do I throw the ball to? And standing there for an excessive amount of time and, of course, getting sacked. He knew where his hot routes were at and everything. He was able to get the ball out quickly, and they only gave up 20. So basically 22 sacks would have been like 1.5 sacks a game. So basically every 2 games, Eli was getting sacked 3 times. Very decent. Very, you'll take that any time. So, but unfortunately their running game was not very, very good. But, all right, let's see here. Let's go over the games here. All right. Now, as I said, the first game of the season was in Dallas, right? Open up against Dallas as we do quite often. And I said Victor Cruz caught the game. Let's see, how much time was left in the game? Does it say here? It was like a 3-yard pass, 2-yard pass, 3-yard pass, 3-yard pass. 6:13 left to go. Giants took the lead at 2019, and the Cowboys couldn't get in field position. They had the ball with under like a minute to go, and they were moving. And Romo, I forgot the name of I forgot who let me see. Let me look and see who it was who caught the pass for him. See if it rings a bell here. Wasn't Bryant. Darn. No, couldn't. No. Wasn't Witten. Maybe was it Terrence Williams, maybe? Maybe it was Terrence Williams. Might have been him. Caught the pass. There was like, what was it? I'm going to say it was like 7 seconds to go in the game or something like that. And he caught the pass, and they were in field goal range. It would have been a long field goal, but they were in field goal range. But the problem was he caught the pass in the middle of the field instead of breaking out. And he might have, I think Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie kind of was trying to maybe had the outside on him. So if he tried to turn to the outside and make it to the outside, maybe DRC might have tackled him before he went out of bounds. That was a possibility. But he didn't even try. He, instead of turning out and trying to get out of bounds, the Cowboys had no time on the clock. He stayed in bounds, turned back into the middle of the field and tried to get some extra yard or whatever, and the clock ran out. And there was tick, 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 tick. And by the time the center got the ball and snapped it back to Romo, the clock had just turned, game had just ran out. So the Giants, won a close one, only because the receiver didn't try to run out of bounds. So the Giants started off 1-0. Then it said that then the game was, this is one of the few times that the Giants actually held Drew Brees. What he had, the defense was phenomenal. They held the Saints to 41 rushing yards. Drew Brees' total net yards was 247 passing yards, and to hold Drew Brees to only 240 net passing yards is absolutely phenomenal. Usually, he's the one that put up 7 touchdown passes against them. So he did a good job, and the Saints was 16-13. The Giants won 16-13. That was their opening game. So and to hold the Saints to only third, they gave up 52 points the year before to the Saints. Now they held them to 13, right? They gave up almost 40 less points to them. So Victor Cruz's, it's tough to say. I know his his catch. I'm not sure if it's set up because it was tied 13-13, and then the Giants, Josh Brown kicked a 23-yard field goal as time expired, and they wound up winning 16-13. So I'm not sure if that's the catch that led to that field goal. Josh Brown had another field goal. He kicked a 19-yard field goal earlier in the fourth quarter. It might have been that one too, but the Giants won as time expired on a field goal, and they won 16-13. Oddly enough, the year before, the Saints beat the Giants 52-49 on a field goal as time expired. So it's just turn of events here. the Saints beat the Giants on the end of the game field goal in New Orleans, and then the Giants returned the favor the next year at home against the Saints, beating them 16-13 on a final second field goal. Then the Giants lost 3 games in a row. They lost 29-27 to the Redskins at home against the Redskins. But once again, a 2-point game. Let's see here. Anything happen here? Because sometimes, see if it's just a lot of field goals and touchdowns and all. But this one here, this would be one of the few ones where the Giants actually lost. With 1:51 to go, the Redskins kicked the Giants were up 27-26, and with 1:51 to go, the Redskins kicked a field goal to go up 29-27. The Giants got the ball back, but unfortunately they couldn't get back in the field goal range. Or if they did get in the field, maybe they missed the field goal. I don't know, but 29-27. This was one of the few times the defense actually gave up the lead. Then they lost to Minnesota 24-10 in Minnesota. Then they played the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay, and they lost 23-16. So once again, they lost. It was a low-scoring game, as a lot of these games are. It was a one-score game. One-score game. And it was just, field goals and touchdowns and all. Odell Beckham, actually it was 23-9. The Packers were up. Odell Beckham Jr. caught an 8-yard touchdown pass with 2 minutes and 54 seconds left to go in the game to make it 23-16. But so nothing special there. So they lost 3 games in a row. Now they're 2-3. But then they would go on and they would wind up winning the next 6 games. They would beat the Baltimore Ravens 27-23 at home to go 3-3. Then they went to play the Los Angeles Rams in Los Angeles. They would win 17-10. I mean, a lot of, once again, close games, low-scoring games, you'll notice here. So now the Giants, after they beat the Rams, are 4-3. Now the Giants had their bye week. Coming back from the bye week, they played the Eagles at home, and they would beat the Eagles 28-23. Once again, another close one-score game that went to the Giants' favor. And then the same thing the next week. They played the Cincinnati Bengals at home, and they won 21-20. Once again, things fell into place for the Giants. But basically, it was the exact opposite, because I said the year before, as it was said in Wikipedia, 6 times in either fourth quarter, 6 times in the final, I think 2 minutes or in overtime, they lost the game where they had the lead and they lost the game. The defense gave up. So this year, they lost all the close ones last year. And if they had won those ones, they would have went to the playoffs. But they lost them all last in 2015. But in 2016, the roles were reversed. They started winning those close games. So they beat the Bengals 21-20 at home. Now they're 6-3. Then they had 3 games in a row at home. Then they played the Bears, and they would beat the Bears 22-16. Once again, low scoring, one-score game, fell in the Giants' favor. Now the Giants are 7-3. Then the Giants went on the road and they played the Cleveland Browns, and they won 27-13. It was a 14-point spread, which was rather odd for the 2016 season. So now the Giants are on a roll, and they went from 2-3. Now they're 8-3, and they're just on the verge of clinching a playoff spot, the first playoff spot since 2011. Okay, then following week, they played in Pittsburgh, and they lost 24-14 to the Steelers. Now they're 8-4. But then they would wind up clinching their playoff berths in these next 2 weeks here. They would beat the Cowboys at home 10-7. What a barn burner that was, huh? So after they beat the Cowboys at home 10-7, now the Giants are 9-4. And then the following week at home, they beat the Detroit Lions. I don't know what it is. They always seem to have the hardest time beating the Detroit Lions, but they beat the Detroit Lions 17-6 at home. Once again, the defense was just a great, great job. So the Giants now are 10-4. They went on the road the following week, and they lost to the Eagles once again, 24-19, another low-scoring, one-score game. The big thing here in this one was the Eagles were up 14-0, but Malcolm Jenkins picked off a pass, and ran it for the Eagles and ran it back 34 yards for a touchdown. So with that pick six, they gave the Eagles 7 points. Well, at the end of the game, the Eagles wound up winning by 5 points. So, if you look at it, right, the Giants, without the pick six, Giants win that game. But it is what it is, right? But once again, another low-scoring, one-score game. And, this time didn't fall in the Giants' favor. But, all right, so then the Giants, let's see, the final game of the season. Now, this one here was interesting because, and this one made you really, really proud, really pounded your chest, really made you feel good to be a Giant fan. I believe, if I remember correctly, let me see. I can cheat here. What was the Redskins' record? I think the Redskins needed to win this game to get into the playoffs. Well, what was the Redskins? They were 8-7-1, so they were 8-6-1. Had they won this game, they would have been 9-6-1, and they would have been a wild card team because the Detroit Lions got the other wild card, and they were 9-7. So if the Redskins won, they would have been 9-6-1. They would have had 6 losses, as where Detroit had 7. So if the Redskins at home, the final game of the season, could have beat the Giants, not only the Giants would have been a wild card team because the Giants would have finished 10-6, but they would have been a wild card, but the Redskins would have been a wild card team. So the Redskins had everything to win, and the Giants had a wild card locked up. The Giants were in. Giants did not need to win this game. They just played this game on the road for pride, right? Giants pride, and the defense stepped up big time. Let's see here. Giants wound up winning 19-10. 19-10. I mean, they held the Redskins to 284 total yards. They held, it was just phenomenal. Just goes to show you what Snacks Harrison meant to this team. The Redskins had 38 yards rushing. They couldn't run the ball. They held teams to 38 yards rushing, 56, 58, 93, 78, 96, 74, 98, 90, 41 yards rushing. They did such a good job. Their run defense was so good. Really, really good. So, the Giants, nothing to play for, but on the road against the Redskins, they beat the Redskins 19-10, and they won for pride. They knocked the Redskins out of the playoffs. So the Giants finished with a record of 11-5. Very, very impressive, and looking really good for Ben McAdoo going forward. It seemed like he has the defense. If he can just get a little more offense, if he can get that running game going, right? Who knows where they can go from there, right? But unfortunately, everything that went right for the Giants in 2016 went wrong for the Giants in 2017. But that's for tomorrow night. So let's see here. What does Wikipedia have to say about the 2016 season here? 2016 NFL season was the 97th season in the history of the National Football League and the 51st of the Super Bowl era. The season began on September 8th, 2016, with the defending Super Bowl champion, Denver Broncos, defeating the Carolina Panthers in the kickoff game in a rematch of the Super Bowl, no less. The season concluded with the Super Bowl 51, the league's championship game on February 5th, 2017 at NRG Stadium in Houston, with the New England Patriots defeating the Atlanta Falcons for the first time since the 2003 NFL season. Neither of the previous season's Super Bowl participants made the playoffs. The former St. Louis Rams moved out of St. Louis, Missouri, and returned to the Los Angeles metropolitan area, its home from 1946 to 1994. This was the first time an NFL team relocated to another state since Houston Oilers relocated to Tennessee in 1997. After playing in San Diego for 56 seasons, the 2016 season was the last season for the San Diego Chargers. Very, very sad. Before they returned to the city of Los Angeles in 2017, they had. Oh, it says it here. Yeah, in the first season, when the Chargers joined the AFL, there was only 8 teams in the AFL in 1960. In 1967, the Dolphins came in. In 1968, the Bengals came in, which gave the AFL 10 teams. But however, in 1960, there was only 8 teams. But the Chargers, their first season, I believe it was just the first season, they were the Los Angeles Chargers. In 1961, they moved to San Diego, and they've become the San Diego Chargers ever since. So then obviously they just moved back to Los Angeles. But to me, the Chargers will always be the San Diego Chargers, but it is what it is. So, all right, let's go to the playoffs here. Playoffs? Oh, yeah, playoffs. So let's look at the AFC here, shall we? New England Patriots, a record of 14-2. They won the AFC East. The Dolphins with a record of 10-6 got the wild card. Pittsburgh Steelers with a record of 11-5 won the AFC North. The Houston Texans with a record of 9-7 won the AFC South. And the AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs with a record of 12-4, they won the division. And the Oakland Raiders with a record of 12-4 got the wild card. Kansas City clinched the AFC West division over the Raiders based on a head-to-head sweep. So the Chiefs swept the Raiders both games, and that's why the Chiefs with a record of 12-4 got the division, and why the Raiders wind up with a record of 12-4 got a wild card. So in the playoffs, Pittsburgh beat Miami 30-12, and the Houston Texans beat the Oakland Raiders 27-14. So in the divisional round, Pittsburgh knocked off Kansas City 18-16, and New England beat the Texans 34-16. So now in the championship game, which wasn't much of a championship game, the Patriots beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 36-17, sending the New England Patriots to the Super Bowl. So in the NFC, they said the Cowboys were 13-3. Two of their three losses were to the Giants. Then the Giants had a record of 11-5, so they were one of the wild card teams. The Green Bay Packers won the NFC North with a record of 10-6, and the Detroit Lions with a record of 9-7 got the other wild card. NFC South, the Atlanta Falcons with a record of 11-5 won the NFC South, and at the NFC West with a record of 10-5-1, the Seattle Seahawks won that division. So now in the playoffs, first round, of course, now this is where the boat trip, Green Bay and the Giants played at Lambeau Field, and Green Bay won 38-13. But I mean, prior in the week, Odell Beckham Jr. went on a boat trip with all the wide receivers, or I don't know if it was all the wide receivers, but I think it was at least him, Victor Cruz, and Sterling Shepard. Might have been a few other guys who were on a boat trip as well too. But the boat picture is rather famous or infamous, I guess, in this case. But I mean, instead of pretty much worrying about your playoff game and all of that, and maybe after you win the Super Bowl, going on a boat trip, right? Or after the season's over with, maybe if you lost to the Packers, right? Then maybe go on your boat trip or whatever. But for whatever his priorities were not set straight, it was, I don't know what he's thinking. And the Giants wound up losing 38-13. I know early in the game there was a pass, he was open. Eli Manning hit him in the hands. He wound up dropping it. I don't know, would it have changed the outcome of the game? Probably not. But just things were all downhill after that. And that was probably pretty much a forecast of things to come, because this 38-13 loss was the most points the Giants gave up all season by far. They got destroyed, and it was pretty much a forecast of what was going to go on in 2017 with the Giants. Seattle beat Detroit in the other wild card game, 26-6. So now in the divisional round, Green Bay beat Dallas 34-31. And Atlanta beats Seattle 36-20. So now in the championship game, it wasn't much of a championship game. The Falcons, who were a very good team that year, won by a record of 44-21 over Green Bay in the Georgia Dome. So sending Atlanta to the Super Bowl. Of course, now we all kind of know what happened in the Super Bowl. Without going too in depth in detail, Atlanta had let's go here. Without going too stark wild crazy about this one here. Atlanta was winning 28-3 in the third quarter. It was 8.5 minutes to go in the game. 8.5 minutes to go. My bad. Sorry. 8.5 minutes to go in the third quarter. So about, 23.5 minutes left to go in the game. They're up 28-3. And they lost. Up by 25 points with 8.5 minutes to go in the third quarter. And they lost. Oh my goodness. They had so many chances. I mean, one of them was, it was toward the end of the game. They had the ball and they were in field goal range. And Matt Ryan got sacked. I don't know if he got sacked back-to-back play. I know he got sacked on one of the plays, and it took him out of field goal range, and they had to punt the ball. But they were in field goal range. And if I read all of this stuff, I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, the Patriots had 37 first downs. They had 546 yards of offense. The Atlanta Falcons had 17 first downs. The Patriots, 37 first downs. I mean, once they were down and they started scoring, they were just a machine. They just could not be stopped. Absolutely. They had 442 yards passing. The Patriots did. I mean, it just could not be stopped. As I said, somewhere in here, the game, then at there. No, I said somewhere. I'm sure. Second half last. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I think. Wait. Phil face 3rd and 33 from Ryan's incomplete pass. Well, I know one of them. He got sacked. Let's see here. Guy Flowers sacked Ryan for a 12-yard loss on the back to the Patriots' 35-yard line. But I know they were in field goal range, and he wound up getting sacked, and it wound up, I think, taking him out of this like field goal range. And this one here too. Earlier, like it was in the third, fourth quarter, ensuing drive, Freeman missed the blocking. One of the Freeman. The Atlanta's running back missed a blocking assignment on a New England blitz and allowed Dante Hightower to sack Ryan as he was winding up for a pass, resulting in a fumble that was recovered by defensive tackle Alan Branch on the Falcons' 25-yard line. It was Ryan's first turnover in 2 months. So, I mean, the things just started going, but I mean, he got sacked and it gave the Patriots the ball deep in Falcons territory. He was also sacked and taken out of field goal range. They were in field goal, and just the wheels just fell off, and it's just unbelievable how you're up 28-3 and wound up being a phenomenally exciting Super Bowl. And when it's 28-3 halfway through the third quarter, you're like, oh my God. I mean, I was pretty happy because I was sick and tired of seeing the Patriots win. So with the Falcons up 28-3, I'm like, okay, the NFC will win another Super Bowl. Okay, cool. And plus Brady won't win another one. Okay, good. But it wound up coming down to the end with 57 seconds left to go. White ran in a 1-yard touchdown run, and they had to get a 2-point conversion. It was 28-20. Right. So the Patriots got a 1-yard touchdown run, but they had to get the 2-point conversion because there was only 57 seconds left to go in the game. They got the 2-point conversion. Brady to Amendola tied the game at 28. Then in overtime with 11 minutes and 2 seconds left in overtime. Well, not in the first period. The New England ran in a 2-yard touchdown run and won 34-28. I mean, it was just such a turn of events from 28-3, and then you don't score another point the rest of the game. You lose 34-28. Unbelievable. They scored 31 consecutive points and just, I mean, it wound up going from a really bad blowout to a really exciting game, but I don't know. I guess you feel also sorry for the Falcons. I mean, they never won a Super Bowl. As I said, you're also kind of getting a little sick and tired of seeing Brady win the Super Bowl and Belichick win the Super Bowl and Patriots win the Super Bowl. So the fact that the Falcons were winning in the Super Bowl and they were up 28-3 and then they wound up losing. It was just like, whew, wow. I mean, the finish it was very, very exciting, to say the least. But so that pretty much wraps up the 2016 for the Giants. I said things fell. I mean, they went out in free agency and they spent some money, which is not something you're supposed to. I mean, you spend some, but basically, Jerry Reese went out in the free agency and he kind of spent money to fix the problems with the defense. And it worked for one season. But one season. As well as everything went in 2016, that's how bad everything went wrong in 2017. And would cost Jerry Reese and Ben McAdoo their jobs. So, as I said, that wraps up the 2016 season, 11-5 finish. They made the playoffs. Things were looking good, but unfortunately, it's not meant to be. So that's the 2016 season. I'll be back again tomorrow night with the 2017 season, which just happened to be the 93rd season in the history of the New York Giants. I'll see you then.